All right, this is Dan Meehan for Fight News Australia, and today we have Cody Haddon, who takes on Jarrett Wilbraham this Sunday at Eternal 66. Cody, how are you?
Good, mate. Yeah, how you doing? Good.
Yeah, really good. Yeah, thanks for stopping by.
It's all right. It's a pleasure, mate.
Pleasure's all mine. Now, Cody, we haven't seen you in the cage for almost a year, so yeah, what have you been up to?
So after my last fight with Steve, I suffered a few injuries. Had an ankle problem, tore a few ligaments there, and then also I've also had an ACL injury too, which is healed up and now back to fully functioning. So yeah, had a bit of a rough. They were all just training incidents, nothing crazy, just the usual sort of stuff. But yeah, I've been training now for a good solid 2 months, 2.5 months, and yeah, that's pretty much what happened last year.
Awesome. So, yeah, like you mentioned there, last time we saw you was at Eternal 60 against Steve Erceg, which, of course, needless to say, was it was a classic fight. But yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
your injuries there were they sort of training injuries? Like, did you sort of come out largely unscathed from the fight itself?
yeah. From the fight, no injuries really. I mean, other than just pulling up a bit sore. But yeah, I returned back to training, and yeah, I was just training in the gym, jiu-jitsu, rolling, and yeah, just got put in an awkward sort of position, and yeah, just like popped one of the ligaments in my ankle, and then I was out for about 2 months, and then I returned back, and then shortly after that, about a month and a half later through training, yeah, just popped my knee also. So that's when I had a slight tear in my ACL, and then had to have like further time off until brought us all the way until this year. Pretty much start of this year, or February is when I kind of returned back.
Yeah, right. So you've been in the wars there a bit, but
Yeah.
tell us about the fight itself. Well, what do you remember?
From the Steve fight.
Yeah.
Oh, it was intense. I was definitely fucking puffing, that's for sure. Tired as man. Yeah, I mean, Steve's great. Yeah, he did a good job of executing a good game plan, which took me a while for me to actually catch on to what he was doing. By that point, it was probably too late, which isn't an issue at all. I still had some success there in the second round. But yeah, overall, yeah, his wrestling was really good, and yeah, like I said, I just didn't really adjust to the wrestling like I should have, and kind of had a different game plan of my own in mind, which then was failing, and yeah, I just didn't readjust on the fly like I normally would. But yeah, kind of ironed out those kinks now, so I feel that won't be a problem.
Yeah, so I was going to kind of ask about that actually. Like the Steve Erceg fight was just your third pro fight, so it was obviously a big leap to take on someone like Steve, and your performance on the night was incredible. But as an up and coming fighter, what do you learn or sort of take away from a fight like that?
Well, like I'm always very harsh and hard on myself. However, that fight, I knew that like on that night, I left it all out there, and I did everything that I could, given like the time frame that I had to prepare for Steve, which was only 3 weeks. Remember, he was training for a title fight. I was also training in hoping to be matched up. However, not knowing that last minute they were going to tell me that I'm fighting Steve. However, I'll always accept, I'm always training for a fight, and it doesn't really matter the opponent, so I take the fight. Not making excuses for myself or anything like that. But yeah, I definitely learned like a lot from that fight. Know where I need to improve on, and know where the level is at. So a lot of people actually told me after that fight, even Steve and his coaches himself, that there is no real loser in that fight there, since it was so close and back and forth. And actually, my stock went up. So. Yeah, it was a great fight. I'm glad that I was a part of it, and win, lose or draw. Yeah, like I said, my stock went up, and everyone could see how high my skill set actually is, since Steve had been on a tear finishing everybody. And then for me to jump in there on my third fight and go the distance, and even have a close fight, and actually I feel like I probably won the second round. So yeah, I mean, it was great, and yeah, I've learnt a lot from the fight, and yeah, I feel like it just solidifies the fact that I do deserve to be up there with the best in Australian MMA.
Absolutely. I was thinking, funny you mentioned your stock going up. I was going to kind of ask you about that. Does like, has life changed at all since being in a classic fight like that? Do you feel like you've sort of put yourself on the map a little bit?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it was already hard to kind of get fights before the Steve fight, but I think now, even after fighting Steve, it might be a little bit harder to get fights. Even though I did lose, it definitely showed everyone what I'm capable of. And it's always like when someone's undefeated, it's always like there's always the question like, oh, well, what's going to happen when they face adversity? And I faced adversity multiple times in that fight, and it didn't change anything. So people know that I'm the real deal, and I'm a gamer, and I'm here to win all the time, and I'm not just gonna give up at the slightest little speed bump, or that I'm great at facing adversity in the fight. I have been in adversity in a lot of fights, and yeah, it doesn't faze me, and I know that I just need to stay composed, and yeah, I can always work through that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen on social media that you've been doing some training with Steve since, which is cool to see. So, what's that been like, sort of training with Steve as a former opponent?
To be honest, man, it's like probably the best training camp I've had, having Steve there to actually spar with every Saturday. So yeah, I kind of now knowing that he's obviously going off to the Contender Series and stuff like that, and also he's fighting at flyweight, I fight at bantamweight. There isn't really potential in like us probably fighting again realistically. Therefore, it just kind of made sense for us to train together, and we can both learn so much and grow from each other. And yeah, without it's crazy now thinking of it that the quality of sparring and stuff that I have had in preparation for this bout, sparring with Steve, and my training camp is so much has been so much better. That the fact that I've had Steve there. I mean, every time we spar, it's honestly like our fight. Every single Saturday, it's like our fight. So you could imagine both of us pushing ourselves really hard and both gaining a lot out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, of course, you're in camp this time for Jarrett Wilbraham this Sunday. It was obviously another highly fancied prospect. So yeah, I was going to ask about training camp. Have you spent most of all of your camp at Lewistro, or have you been sort of splitting some time between Lewistro and Wilkes?
No, so all my training is coming out of Lewistro, but I'm actually just going to Wilkes to spar on a Saturday with Steve. But yeah, all my training's done out of Lewistro. But yeah, just the Saturdays with Steve down at Wilkes.
Yeah, and we know that Jarrett was supposed to fight Colby Thickness a few weeks ago. So how much notice did you get for this one? And were you already in camp, or sort of what was the situation there?
Yeah, I was already in camp. The notice I got was like 3.5 weeks. However, I was already in camp hoping to fight on this Eternal card here in Perth. So, yeah, if that answers the question. Yeah, I was already preparing. It's, 3.5 weeks for Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, we're obviously less than a week out from fight night now. So how's your weight, and how much of a stretch is it for you to get to bantamweight?
I'm pretty good, man. I woke up this morning 65.5 kilos. So to be honest, it's like 4 kilos, man. Still eating a lot. Actually having that whole year being injured and having a couple of issues there, I really got to fix my metabolism and bump up my calories a lot more. So now the weight cut has become even easier as I'm on fueling my body a lot more efficiently. And yeah, it's really not a big deal for me to get down to bantamweight. For me to get to flyweight, I can get there, but definitely have to sacrifice some performance. But for bantamweight, it's perfect for me. So only 4 kilos out.
Beautiful. And yeah, Wilbraham's an undefeated prospect, and he's obviously highly rated. So yeah, what do you think of the matchup and what he brings to the table?
Yeah, man, he's great. Actually, I seen his fight with Jamie Hunt, and his record. He's a great fighter. He comes in hard. He's gutsy. He's got a good gas tank. He likes to wrestle. He likes to strike. Very explosive. Throws a lot of head kicks, a lot of big knees. Good in the clinch. It's a great fight, and it's what I want. I've actually thanked the guy so much because it's been hard matching me up and getting a fight. So I'm glad to see. A lot of guys with this type of record would turn down a fight against me because I'm only 2-1. So, it just shows that he's a real gamer. The fact that he's actually taking the fight, I respect him as a fighter, and I think he's a phenomenal fighter. And I can't wait to share the octagon with him.
Absolutely, and being the local boy, do you, I'm sure you'll have the home crowd in your corner over there. Are you a fighter that sort of feeds off that, or are you more the type to sort of block out the noise and get in the zone?
Yeah, I block out the noise. I'm not really. I have a lot of fans and supporters and friends who come and watch me fight always, but me myself, I definitely block out the noise. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, it's me versus him. My fans can't do the winning for me. They can be there to witness it, but they can't get in there and fight for me. So it's always just me and the opponent.
Yeah, absolutely, and the talent pool at bantamweight in this country is pretty strong at the minute. Really, where do you think a win over Jarrett would sort of place you in the pecking order there?
Well, that would be great. I definitely feel like I deserve something towards a title shot. Definitely after this fight, coming out with a victory. Even now, I believe that I deserve to fight for the title. I just fought Steve and had a close fight with him, and he is the flyweight champion. And as you can see, he has been cleaning up the flyweight division. He's been finishing everybody in the first round and stuff like that. So the fact that I went the distance and even had good success in the fight just solidifies like where I stand in Australian MMA.
Absolutely, and last time we caught up, we chatted about your sort of UFC aspirations down the track, and with obviously COVID now less of an issue and travel back on the agenda, we're sort of seeing the opportunities return for Australian fighters like say Rob Wilkinson and Sam Kay in the PFL, and obviously Shannon Ross and Steve Erceg are on their way to the Contender Series, and sounds like there might be more on the way there as well. So, do you sort of have a timeline in mind for yourself in terms of getting to the big leagues, or is it just not something that you really concern yourself with just yet?
Absolutely. I think about it a lot. I think it's a matter of not. It's hard to put a time on it. It was harder to put a time on it before, like when this COVID stuff was all going on because we have a lot of pullouts and then events cancelling and then not being able to fly and all these kind of restrictions. As you know, WA have been made things very difficult during the COVID times with shutting off the borders and all this sort of stuff and not letting you fly anywhere and all this type of stuff. So it's been very hard. So now it's a bit easier to put a time limit, but even still, I think it's a matter of fights. I need to. Right now, I'm 2-1. Realistically, I need to get to about 5-1 or 6-1, something like that. When that happens, then I feel like I'm definitely up there and able to fight in some of the bigger leagues. Right now, they're not really gonna. I don't think they're gonna really look at me. They might be looking at me, but it's a matter of I've got to get the wins. So it's just a numbers game, really.
Absolutely. Does it feel like, after the Steve Erceg fight and obviously assuming that you're successful against Jarrett Wilbraham as well, that'll kind of make you a more viable a more viable opponent for the sort of the top dogs in that division?
Oh, 100%. And I think it gives these guys more, gives them an incentive to fight me also. So, like I said before, I'm only 2-1. So, someone who's 10-0, why would they risk losing to me? What have I've got everything to gain, but they've got everything to lose, sort of thing. You know what I mean? So, beating Jarrett would definitely put me I'd be 3-1. Definitely puts me in a better position, and also or of like also having fought high caliber opponents, that also makes me look a lot better on paper too.
Definitely. And okay, so we know you're in the co-main event at Eternal 66, which is awesome. So now give us your prediction for the main event, which of course is Jack Becker versus Aiden Aguilera for the Eternal lightweight title.
Yeah, so I think Jack has actually fought Aiden before. If I'm not wrong, you might be able to correct me on that. I don't know.
Yeah, correct, in Coastal Combat last year.
Yes. So they fought, and I think that might have been Jack's return fight. That might have been his first fight back after a few years off or whatever. So Jack to come back and beat Aiden when he might have been a bit rusty, that's a win. Now he's definitely not rusty. He's been a bit more active. So I feel that, Jack might have the upper hand in that bout there. Obviously, Jack's a Perth guy, Perth boy, so I'm rooting for him. But yeah, I know that Aiden is also very highly skilled, so it'll be a good fight. But I think Jack will come out on top, to be honest.
Yeah. And before I let you go, Cody, I'm sure your manager in the driver's seat there, Jasmine, will have prepared you for this one. But do you have any sponsors or anyone you'd like to shout out? I'll hand over to you.
Yes, always. So, just like to say a big shout out to all my sponsors. First and foremost, my gym that I train out of, Luistro Combat Academy. And then also, I just want to thank Pro Fuel Meals, Vex MMA, Gobsmack Mouthguards, Victory Recovery Systems, Hemp Can Labs, Gorilla Cairo, CrossFit Dignus, Margaret River Roasting, Steezy Australia, and True Nemesis. Thank you to all you guys. Without you guys supporting me, I wouldn't really be able to do this. As you know, at the low level, we don't really make much money out of this, and this is my full-time job. So sponsors make this stuff able for us to actually do this full-time.
Perfect. That's quite a lineup there. That's an impressive list. So, Cody, thank you so much for taking the time during fight week, and all the best at Eternal 66.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate it always.